Did you think that growing up that you would
it.
have 19 children?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. That was something that I was always kind of like a little bit afraid of, but I was never the one who was like, give me your kids. I'm going to go babysit your kids for you. Like some of my siblings are more geared that way.
Yeah.
And they're all about like watching everyone's kids.
That's Abby.
Holding their kids. And I'm all for it. I was like, I will do the grocery shopping. I'll do all the laundry. I don't mind. Like give me the chores around the house.
Yeah.
I love that. But I was not like, I don't know. I just didn't. I wasn't doing that. Mm-hmm. So then I wanted to have kids. I just was like really afraid of the thought of like having as many as possible, but that was what was,
just kind of assumed that destiny. Would be
that was going to be it. I was going to get married and have a lot of kids. And so even on the show, if you watch the old shows, I'm sure I probably said multiple times, I'm just going to have as many kids as possible.
Oh my
They'd always ask us,
Yeah.
And so I would just say it over and over. But like, I was afraid. I was so afraid to think about that.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thing, because one of the major issues I think in that setting that she grew up in was they were always taught what to think, but they weren't taught how to think. So they weren't like, she didn't ever actually have the option to like,
I was never taught to like challenge anything.
Yeah, and go through and go, well, what do I want to do? Well,
yeah.
What does my future? It was like, no, this is your future.
This is it.
This is what it's.
This is where we're gonna go. So
this is what it's gonna look like.
And my parents were like, I will say, like, I think it was the system that like brought a lot of that in.
Yeah.
And so my parents like wanted us to like be able to do what we want to do, like hobby wise or whatever, they like figure out what we're engaged in and like want to like come alongside us in that. But it also did provide a lot of cookie cutters within the system. Yeah. And so you saw like kids just all wanting to do the same thing. Wow, this is amazing. You all have the same passions and hobbies because it was such a small box. There was not much you could do.
You can't like do drum lessons. It's like, that's kind of a no.
Yeah. It's like everybody does the same thing. And so even totally. And then even like having kids, it was something that once I realized that, okay, I don't need to have as many kids as possible, I just felt like a massive weight off of my shoulders, because I just thought like, then kids can actually be, I think it can be a sweeter situation where they're coming in when you're like, oh, we'd love to have a kid now. Let's have a kid. And instead of like the burden of kid after kid, I'm like just getting over having a baby and I'm having another baby. Sometimes that happens, but it's like, it's not a burden. I saw so many moms in that setting who were just beat down. They were having child after child. They were on bed rest. They were so sick. The younger siblings were having to like care for the kids for the 9 months that the mom was sick with the next pregnancy. And then as soon as she was done, 3 months later, she gets pregnant again. And it just, it happens perpetually until she can't have kids anymore.
And the issue isn't like kids. Kids are incredible, right?
Kids are great and they are a blessing, but it's like everything in its right place.
Yeah, and it was the twisting of scripture to tell every woman, this is what you must do regardless. Yeah.
And did you... sorry.
No, you're good.
I mean, did you feel like you missed out on your childhood because you were spending all this time having to help raise your other siblings, right? Like,
my perspective now is like, okay, I don't want to look back too far and try to like pick apart what I wish I would have had or all of that, because I have to look at my life as a whole now moving forward and say, okay, there were things that I definitely would have changed in some of that. But like I said, I wasn't one of the ones who was like watching everyone's kids. I had 2 of my siblings who I would take care of and help with their schoolwork, their music practice, help them get their chores done, stuff like that. And I think that looking at that system, it is imbalanced. And I think that parents should be, they should take care of their kids. If you have them, you should take care of them. And kids can help out and learn responsibility in other ways, but maybe not in the motherly aspects of like what moms or dads should be doing. You have all the imbalances of like kids raising kids. I think that I saw that a lot in the system, and I think that is unhealthy. And so I will look back at my childhood and say, okay, yes, there could have been things that have changed. Like we would never do organized sports because we were afraid of influences around us. And so we would do a family sport in the community with just people from the community would come and play, and we would all play that together. And I loved it. And so some of that like things that maybe we missed out on was like, the kids would not know if they're athletic, you know, because like we're playing sports in the backyard, but like you're not on teams. You aren't learning that.
Yeah.
You aren't learning what you can actually do. And so I think that being put in that box, that was something that I was, you know, looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have had maybe more opportunities to explore what I was really interested in that way. Like, you know, so.
And when you were married, but you weren't having kids right away, were you guys getting questions from your parents?
Well, it was like, we got back from the honeymoon and they were like, and I was like, I was looking at her like, is this normal to just be asking like, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? And she's like, yes, in our setting it is. Like, and it was from like, her siblings or like friends.
On the
they were
show, like they would ask us to all the time, and it was like,
oh, the producer, every time we sit
question.
down for an interview, are you guys pregnant? Are you expecting? Or like,
How did that make you feel?
well, it made me feel, she was used to it, I think, or expecting it.
I expected it.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you do in those settings.
For me, I was like, hey, get out of that aspect of our life.
Yeah, he's like, that's weird.
Why are you asking us about
weird.
that?
But for me, I was like, okay, no, this is just what people do. Like this is what's expected of you almost. So I was afraid of like the reactions and like people thinking, oh no, maybe they think that we can't have kids. And like that's honestly probably where a lot of people would think, like, you know, if you grew up in that setting, you're going to have kids right away. Otherwise, maybe you can't. And so, but realizing like, I think the further away from the system that I got, the more I realized, okay, I want to live my life to glorify God, but I don't also want to like be so much a people pleaser where I'm just like allowing everybody else to dictate what we should be doing as a family. And I think that was a balance that I needed to find. It took me a while to get there. It took me so many years, and there's still days where it's like really hard to like do your own thing. But at the same time, it was what brought me the most freedom. And then also realizing like, okay, other people are watching. They're seeing how you're living your life. Like people from the system, they want to see, are you willing to do hard things and to step outside of that and do what you're convicted of, not just what you're told to do. And I think that also provided room for other loved ones to like follow suit, to be able to like step outside of that system and think for themselves and not fear that they were going to be looked down upon maybe if they did something different.